Hey, what's going on, everybody? What's going on, everybody? Listen, I know it's a little bit after 12 o'clock, a little bit after 12:30 Central Standard Time here on this beautiful Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday, July 13th, 2022. Kind of thought this would be a different year of celebration, but it's still a great year for everybody. So for those of you who are just tuning in, who tuned in with me live, hey, I appreciate you all so much for rocking with us, listening in, tuning in, and seeing what we are discussing. For those of you who have never met me, my name is Ray Destin Jr. I am the CEO and founder of BOBM Publishing. We're a full-service publishing house that has helped over 300 authors launch their books to Amazon #1 bestseller. And as I said yesterday, starting in January, we'll be launching them to New York Times bestseller. So if you haven't already got on the train, you might want to start growing and building with us as soon as possible, right? These videos are not to sell you anything. It's actually to help you go to the next level. So if you are a new or an existing author, you'll find that I usually talk a little bit about your story. We work with a lot of authors that are in the nonfiction genre, people that want something different and want to help people. So that's what this video today is all about, the beauty of your story. And as y'all know, I'm going to go a little bit high level. I'm going to give you the answers, then I'm going to break it down so that you understand how to implement the things that we're talking about, and not just how to implement them, but also why it makes such a huge difference when you are sharing your story. So one of the first things is about your story. A few things that you need to know. One, your story matters. It truly matters. There's some people who are on the opposite side that will say, you know what, you don't mean this, you don't mean that, and they try to degrade or try to downgrade your story, try to downgrade your experiences. Let me tell you from experience, your story absolutely matters. It's going to be relevant. It's relevant to a specific group of people. There's somebody who needs your story in such a major way that you don't even know just yet. But the fact that they are tuned in, they're listening to your story, they're reading your story, they needed something that you shared with them. Also, it's going to help somebody. And we'll go into all of those. But then there's also, with your story, you're sharing your expertise. A lot of people in different fields get discouraged because they say, I want to get into this field. I want to help people that are going through domestic violence. I want to go help people that are going through divorce. I want to help people that are going through relationship issues. I want to help people that are going through learning how to start a business. I want to help people, whatever it is that that you want to get into. Sometimes you don't have the degrees, but you already have the expertise. We'll break that down in a second. And then what you want to include in your story is how you made it over. How you made it over. There's a reason for that. Because with each story, you want to give a positive spin. Too many times we read stories, and if you read a story and that person is writing from a victim's mentality, no, you'll never help someone else if you still see yourself as the victim. You have to change your outlook on the situation. And then lastly, how does it affect others? You got to remember, it's your story. Somebody else is going to be involved. But the beauty of that is you get a chance to share your truth. And it may help the person who either hurt you or did something that pulled you back to actually see the role that they played in it from a different perspective. Because a lot of times we only see life through the paradigms that we have, which is our paradigm. And then the last thing I'm going to go into is the biblical aspect of storytelling. So let's go back from the very beginning, right? Your story matters. A lot of times people get discouraged when they begin to start talking about their story, because they say, well, nobody wants to hear about I'll give you a personal example. Nobody wants to hear about the mental and emotional abuse that I dealt with, because it makes me look weak. It makes me look like I'm less than a man. Honest truth is, there are a lot of men in this world who deal with emotional and mental abuse. There are a lot of women who deal with emotional, physical, sexual abuse. And so what the lie that we tell ourselves is nobody wants to hear it. That's an absolute lie. Some people want to hear it for different reasons. Some people want to hear it because they just love gossip. They just love to be in the drama scene. We're not worried about that, right? What we are worried about are those people who are still stuck in the middle of a storm, and your story is the one that's going to help them get past that storm. The reason that I say your story is going to help them get past the storm is because you may be sharing about something that happened a year ago, 2 years ago, even a month ago, or 2 months ago, that you had a chance to step out of and see yourself again for the person that you are. But somebody else is still sitting there suffering in silence, literally suffering in silence. So your story matters because it's going to be relevant to those people. It's relevant to the people who are coming behind you, the people who are battling a certain situation or trying to discover something about themselves. So when you share your story, if you share it from a place of truth, then what's going to happen is that it will help somebody. It will help somebody. You never know how many lives you can save just by telling your personal story. You never know how many opportunities to bless somebody. I always come from a biblical, from a Christian perspective. So I understand that a lot of things that I go through are sufferings that you have to go through because you're following the cross, or you've picked up your cross to follow Christ, right? And a lot of people that are coming behind me, if I walk you through the entire story of how I went from 2010 starting to speak to 2012, helping over 300 authors become best-selling authors, helping several people become motivational or training consulting type speakers, or helping people get their businesses off ground, or even helping youth. If I walked you through everything that I had been through to this point, what would happen is some of the situations that you're dealing with right now would not seem so big, so insurmountable, because you'll see right now I'm in the picture. So you can't see the picture if you're in the frame. But when you get a chance to look at someone else who's been in that same situation, who's already overcome, it gives you more of an opportunity to become resilient, more of an opportunity to persevere through, and it gives you that opportunity to see that you too can make it over. So that's what your story is doing. Your story is there because it does matter. Even though some of the people that have hurt you in your life or that have done you wrong will say, well, your story don't matter. Don't nobody want to hear what you got to say. You ain't got nothing. No. Let me tell you from a place of love and from a place of truth. Your story absolutely matters, and it will help somebody else, because somebody else is in that same situation that you've already walked away from or walked out of because you had to get better for yourself. The next thing is the expertise in your story. I see so many people that are jumping into different career fields as a specific type of coach because of their expertise. And the honest truth is, your expertise does matter. The things that you've been through, your life experience gives you expertise in an area that somebody right now is struggling through. There's somebody right now coming behind you. And so you may not have, for example, I don't have any college degrees. But because I took the time and I learned what it's going to take to be successful in this specific field as an entrepreneur, as a speaker, as an author, that gives me a level of expertise that has allowed me to work with some phenomenal people. I can't count the number of people that have PhDs, people that have master's degrees, people that have bachelor's degrees, people that are high-ranking government officials, people that are high-ranking in all different levels. But it's because of the expertise that comes from my personal story, and not just my personal story, but my personal grind, my personal perseverance. And your story is very similar. So if you want to become a domestic violence specialist to help women, and the reason I keep going back to domestic violence is because, one, we've ran across a lot of books where women have shared their story. And unfortunately, there's a lot of domestic violence that goes on out there, both physical, verbal, sexual, and emotional abuse. And so these women that have overcome that know how to see the signs. And they can literally look at another woman and see, wait a minute, you don't seem like your chipper self. Or they can see a man and say, you don't seem like your chipper self. What's going on? That is because of their experience. That experience allows you a certain level of expertise that gives you pull and gives you the opportunity to walk into certain rooms, certain conferences, certain speaking engagements, because you are the person who has already been through it. Once you share your story, and definitely if you share it from a book level, at the end of each chapter, give some key points. Turn your life story into a workbook. It's very simple to do. Once you do that, that allows you to become an expert in a field that you were trying to get into already. Obviously, just because you became an expert by sharing your story, that's not the end of it. You still have to continue learning, continue growing, continue going forward. But it does allow you to walk in. And then again, I always talk about sharing, how did you make it over? How did you make it over? If you just share, I went through this situation and now I'm here, that doesn't help anybody. It really doesn't help anybody, because if I don't know how you got through the situation, if all I know is that, oh, you know what, when you were a child, you were abused and then you just grew up, that doesn't help. Maybe there was a family member that you reached out to. Maybe there was a friend of the family. Maybe it was a teacher. Maybe it was a counselor. Maybe there was a specific resource that you went through. Give people step by step that's coming behind you. Because again, when I start talking about business, I'm going to give you step by step, because I want you to take those shortcuts instead of having to go through maybe a week-long process of figuring out how to add a rolling header, or a week-long process of figuring out how to, or 2 months to a week to figure out how to write a business plan, or a week of how to set up your Square account. These are all things that because I've already been through it, I can help somebody else through it. And there are things in your life that you've already been through that's sitting right there in front of you that you've missed, because guess what? You can't see the picture when you're in the frame. Take an analysis of the things that you've already been through and go back and see, what is it that I've already been through that is going to help somebody else. Maybe you have a great ability to connect with others on a different level. Maybe you connect with people just generically. You're an outgoing person, so it's automatic for you to never meet a stranger. I know a few people like that in my life. One of those is Chip Baker. I don't think the guy's ever met a stranger. Another friend of mine, Eric Holt. We used to laugh and joke about it. We would go out and the guy would sit there and ask, hey, can I get a cigarette off you? And next thing you know, they have an hour and a half long conversation, because he never met a stranger. When you have a good personality, that may be the gift that you have that allows you to excel, but you have to tap into it and you have to take inventory of who you are, because that's part of your story. Why are you that way? Why are you so outgoing? Why are you so friendly? Why are you so closed in? What are the things that makes you become so meticulous as an author, as a leader in your field? There are certain things that you've already been through, and those are parts of your story. Those are things that you need to share with others to help them out. And then finally, not finally, but another thing, make sure your story has a positive spin. We've all watched so many of these movies. So many. My favorite type of movie is motivational. right? I love the story of The Pursuit of Happiness, the character that Will Smith played. I actually ended up going back and reading the book after I saw the movie, and the book was the movie was only about that much of the book. It was only a very small piece of the man's story, because the guy was so powerful. He had been through so many things, but they said this part right here, you going from job to job, selling those bone density scanners, to being homeless while you were chasing this dream of becoming a stockbroker. That's amazing. That's important. But the truth is, he actually had more than one child. They only showed one child with Will Smith. That's where Jaden Smith got his acting debut. But the story was not told from a place of him being a victim. The story was told from a perspective of him being a victor. And there are so many stories like that end up becoming movies, because yes, people are looking for the following. They're looking for, what was the circumstance that you went through? What were the obstacles that you had to face? What was your end goal? Did you hit your end goal? And how did you handle the trials and tribulations as you were going through it? If you want to break it down and make it even simpler, everybody's heard this type of question on an interview: situation, task, alternative, result, or situation, task, action, result, alternative, result. STAR AR is the interview process. There's a reason that people are looking for: how did you start? What were the obstacles? What was the end result? What was your attitude during all that? Because if you tell a story from a victim's mentality, then what's going to happen is those people who are already in the place of being a victim will see themselves as being even bigger victims, because you've now disabled their ability to see the positive spin in their life. But when you tell your story from a place of being the hero, talk about the things that you went through, but also talk about your perseverance, because that perseverance to get through the storm, that perseverance to get over the hump, that perseverance to get to your end goal is what is going to make a huge difference. One of the people in my life, my sister was really inspired by the story of Wilma Rudolph as a young child. And the reason that she was really inspired by it is because Wilma Rudolph had issues with her legs before she started running track. But through perseverance, she continued running and became a celebrated Olympic gold medalist, a multi-celebrated Olympic gold medalist. And so because my sister was able to see that, she went on to achieve 2 Olympic gold medals, 23-time All-American at UT, just recently inducted into the College Track and Field Sports Hall of Fame. All of these things make a huge difference. You never know who you're influencing, but you have to tell that story from a place of being a victor, not a victim, right? And then let's go into how does it affect others? This is the thing that stops people from telling their story. Well, I want to tell my story, but the person who did this to me is still alive. The person who did this to me is a big name in society now, and it's going to discredit me. The person who did this to me is a family member. The person who did this to me is somebody that's still in my life. Sometimes you have to, you got to have those difficult conversations before you share your story, and have those difficult conversations with the people that are in your life, or the people that you're going to talk about. But one thing that I always recommend is, if you are telling a story that actually involves someone and it may paint them in a negative light, people grow in life. So the person that they were at a certain level in their life is not the same person that they are now. Have that conversation with them. Let them acknowledge what happened. Let them acknowledge the experiences that they placed upon you. Let them acknowledge the fact that their disrespect, that their abuse, that their mental and physical lack of acknowledgement of who you were affected you in a negative way. And that's when maturity comes in. Either as a mature adult, they'll say, "Oh man, I apologize, man or woman. I apologize for what I did, and I hope that you can forgive me." Or they'll go about their day and say, "You know what? I don't care what you went through. This is what I experienced." And so there's a level of maturity that comes with that. Either way it goes, if they are mature enough to acknowledge it, cool. If they're not mature enough to acknowledge it, let it go, throw it over the river. Cry me a river, build a bridge, and get over it. But when you share your story, do not go back and talk or share their specific name. If it's something, I always say, if it's something that's going to paint someone in a negative light, change the person's name. You know the event is real. You can always change the name. There's a saying that you see on TV shows. The names were changed to protect the innocent or to protect the guilty, whatever the case may be. If that is what you need to do, then change their name. You don't have to put someone's specific name in there because you want to get revenge or you want to make them feel the same pain that you felt. Get over it. Get past it, because life blessed you with that storm so that you can bless somebody else that's still in the midst of their storm. So don't worry about how your story is affecting someone else, but don't. And this is just from a place of love. Don't go in and share their name trying to defame them, because defamation suits are definitely a real thing. If someone feels that you're using their name and trying to defame them, then they can put their legal team on you, and that's not something that you want to deal with as a new author or even a new speaker or whatnot. So if it's sharing a positive light on someone, share it, talk about it, include their name, acknowledge them, give them their flowers, give them their roses. If it's something that's going to put a negative spin on someone, you may have to change the name, just so that people aren't looking at them sideways. They got to deal with their burdens. That's not yours. And then the last thing is the biblical aspect of it. In my opinion, the best book that's ever been written is the Bible, and it's filled with stories. It's filled with stories of triumph. It's filled with stories of adversity. It's filled with stories of pain. It's filled with stories of liars, of cheaters, of thieves, of murderers, of adulterers. But the reason that book was even written and even shared is because it's helping so many others. You know, when I talk to men about some of their stories and some of the things that I always hear is, you know, one of my weaknesses or one of my downfalls is women. And I say, you know what? I used to keep the story of Joseph in front of me when I was working in corporate America, because I had to keep that story in front of me. Because when you have certain blessings on your life, there are always going to be those who are trying to attach themselves to you because of the light that shines in you and shines on you. If you look at the story of Ruth, most women are so inspired by the story of Ruth. Oh my God, Ruth found her Boaz, and her Boaz was able to do so much for her in her life. But what that story also shows is Ruth was a working woman. She was loyal to her mother-in-law. She could have easily did what her sister-in-law did and left. But instead of leaving, she came back and said, wherever you go, I'll go, because I'm there with you. And her mother-in-law was the connector that said, okay, we're going to go to my family. And she started working the fields. And when Boaz started seeing her, her mother-in-law said, hey, that's the man that's going to be there for you. Here's how you attract that man. So there was wisdom from an older woman showing a younger woman how to become a woman of God, not a woman of, let's keep moving past that. But the story of Ruth and the story of Boaz was all about a woman who was worthy to become this man who was at a higher level. He was able to see the beauty in her, and they became one. That is another story from the Bible. if you look at the story, the greatest story ever told of Jesus, and how he went through his sufferings, he performed these miracles, he performed all these things, and throughout it, he educated people. He was able to perform miracles, and he was also able to teach his disciples how to perform these same miracles, and how to preach from a place of power and not just from a place of scripture. He talked about the scripture, but he also pointed out the fact, hey, when he was 13, he went to the temple. He said, okay, this is my first time preaching. I am he that you're looking for. And he closed the book. Like authority. It shows that you don't have to be weak if you are a Christian. It shows that you don't have to be weak when you are moving in your place of power. But he also shows the Bible also walks you through the things that he went through, so that each of us has the ability to become saved, to become worthy, because so many people out here now are walking around saying, I'm not worthy because of what society said. But the Bible, again, is one of the books that's filled with stories that shows you how no matter what you're going through, there is someone who's already been in this place. And because they've been in that place, now you can relate to their story. Why? Because for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. You are still in that category. So saying all this to say that your story has so much beauty and so much power, and it will affect and impact others. But when you tell your story, remember, your story does matter. It doesn't matter what other people say. It doesn't matter how many people have hurt you or counted you out. You're still here for a reason. Every day that you're alive, you have the opportunity to make an impact on somebody else. What's going on? What's going on, Rasul? If you are sharing your story, it also is relevant to someone that's coming behind you. It's helping them get through their storms. And it does give you that level of expertise that you need to step into certain industries. But you have to share it from a place of power, from a place of truth, and don't share your story as the victim. Share your story as the victor that you are. And remember, even though it does affect others, if the negative is going to impact someone else's life in a negative way, change the name. Change the name, even though they may be guilty as all get out in your eyes, and really just overall, you can still change their name, because everybody has a chance to change. But still tell your story, because it's going to help someone else get through a storm that they're going through in their life. And the great thing about sharing your story, if you do it properly, if you do it from a place of power, from a place of truth, from a place of honesty, from a place of love, and a place of victory, then that does give you the opportunity to become the expert, and also creates opportunities for you to impact lives across the globe. So once again, prayerfully, this was helpful to you all. Just wanted to jump in with y'all, give y'all a little bit more information to help you take it to the next level as an author. But remember, one of the first and greatest lessons is that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And a lot of people don't care. Facts tell, stories sell. Your story has the ability to open more doors than you can possibly imagine if you tell it right. So once again, my name is Ray Destin Jr., founder and CEO of BOBM Publishing. Love y'all to the moon and beyond. Y'all go out and celebrate 713. Today is Houston Day. So love y'all.